Let's rock and roll. Week 6 of the 2021 NFL football season started off with a Thursday night game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers came to Philadelphia and beat the Philadelphia Eagles 28-22. Now, before I start, let me say I like Jalen Hurts. You got to be real careful when you talk about the Eagles and you live in Philadelphia, but you're not an Eagles fan. So I'm going to get this out of the way. I like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a warrior on the field. He does as much as he can to lead the Eagles, but unfortunately, he's too young and too unequipped for the job. Maybe more unequipped than even his youth has anything to do with. I'm pretty confident that he'll get better as far as his skills are concerned, but right now, the team and the coaching staff is far too young and too inexperienced. So that's basically what's been their downfall so far. On the positive side, Hurts threw one touchdown pass, and he ran for 2 more scores in the second half, and he kept plays alive single-handedly, basically with just his legs, while trying his best to bring the Eagles back from a 28-7 deficit. On the negative side, he threw 1 interception. He got sacked twice. He suffered 5 3-and-outs. Those are resulting punts, okay? And he only completed 12 passes for 115 yards. Subpar, not good. He missed a bunch of throws, and somehow, let's talk about missing throws. He piled up 95 yards of defensive pass interference penalties. Now you go, oh man, they got 95 yards on pass interference? That's good. No, it's not. Those balls were all underthrown long balls, which has been his problem since the season began. People crying about his long ball throwing, saying he doesn't have the arm. I say he does have the arm, but he doesn't have the mechanics. He doesn't have the anticipation. He's just not good at it. That's all. He's just not good at it. It's something he could get better with. I don't think it's an arm strength problem, but that's just me. Chances are he will continue to chuck and duck and run until his head coach and offensive coordinator realize that in the NFL, you have no run game. If you have no run game or you refuse to establish one, you will be hard-pressed to win games. So until they get that through their heads, the Eagles are going to continue on the path that they're already on. Now, you have to have some semblance of a balanced attack on offense to be consistently successful. That's my opinion. I know it's the opinion of others, but I don't speak for others. I only speak for myself. If you want an example, look at the Buccaneers. Brady came out in this game hot. 11 of 12 for 121 and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. He pretty much cruised the rest of the way. He finished the game 34-42 for 297. His main target was Antonio Brown. He got 13 targets. That's a lot of balls thrown your way, Antonio. That's a good thing. You are back. He caught 9 of them for 93 yards, and he scored a touchdown. And then there was every down workhorse Leonard Fournette. This team has gone from a running back committee to a 1-2 punch to a bell cow workhorse running back situation, and that is Leonard Fournette. He had 22 carries, 81 yards, 2 scores, and he caught 6 balls for an additional 46. So you don't need a third down back in this offense. That's some balance for you. Okay. All right. Here we go. That was Thursday night. So starting off Sunday over in England, Miami at Jacksonville. So even though they were in England, Jacksonville was considered the home team. Jacksonville pulled off their first win as predicted by me and also the bias. They won the game 23-20. 2021 first overall draft pick, Trevor Lawrence, and rookie NFL head coach, Urban Meyer, both got their first NFL win with a 23-20 last-second field goal victory over the Dolphins. Now, quick note to Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni. Urban Meyer seems to understand the need of having a running game. And he has believed in his running back, who is James Robinson, to help bring balance to his offense and take pressure off of his rookie quarterback. Robinson was extremely productive to the tune of 101 yards on 17 carries and a touchdown. And Lawrence threw the ball pretty well himself. He finished with 319 yards through the air. He had a touchdown. He threw no interceptions. Now, the Dolphins were pretty excited going into this game because Tua Tagovailoa, their quarterback, had been out with fractured ribs. He came back from his injury. He didn't disappoint them, although it was against a bad Jaguars defense. He was 33 of 47, 329 yards and 2 scores. Both of them went to Jalen Waddle, which was another highlight because Will Fuller's down and Devontae Parker is also injured. He may be back this coming weekend. With both of them out, Waddle's basically the main guy beside tight end Gesicki. Okay, so it wasn't like Tua had his full complement of weapons, but he still played well. Unfortunately, the Dolphins also, recurring theme, never really established their run. And it's crazy because they actually played 3 different running backs over the course of the game, but none of them put up any numbers or had enough carries to actually get the run established. Therefore, boom, no balance. Tua throws too many passes, gets picked off, they lose the game. Green Bay Packers go into Chicago, the Windy City, big time division rivalry. This one goes way back, folks. It means a lot to a Green Bay Packer to have to go into Soldier Field and come out with a victory against the Chicago Bears. It always has and probably always will. So, score was 24-14, by the way. Let me just say that. I made a fantasy call last week in reference to Bears rookie running back Khalil Herbert, who was put in position to start because of an injury to David Montgomery. And then Damon Williams, who came in to take over for Montgomery, tested positive for COVID. So here we go. We got nobody left. We got to go with a rookie running back, Khalil Herbert. Last week, he played pretty well against Vegas. No big deal, but I liked him for fantasy purposes. He served well. Against the Packers, he played even better. But even his 97 yards and 1 touchdown on 19 carries wasn't enough to help Justin Fields lift the Bears offense. The conservative approach that the Bears have been using was good enough against Las Vegas, okay? But against the Packers defense, it fell short. Fields was able to manufacture 1 score through the air, but his total of 174 passing yards and 43 on the ground was nowhere near enough to keep them in the game. The Packers defense sacked Fields 4 times, picked him off once. Wasn't a good day for Justin Fields. But guess what? They've made the commitment to Justin Fields. So he's going to be out there. So if you're a Bears fan, buckle up and hold on, okay? But your quarterback of the future is now your quarterback of the present. Green Bay got great production from their ground game. Again, recurring theme, got to have a run game to have balance on your offense. Aaron Jones, 76 yards on 13 carries, 34 yards on 4 catches. One of those catches was for a touchdown. Also, A.J. Dillon's production is starting to go up. Well, his usage is going up. Therefore, his production is going up. He got to run the ball 11 times for 59 yards. That's a good thing because Aaron Rodgers in this particular game got sacked 3 times. The Bears sent everything they had at him on anything that they thought was going to be a passing down. The pressure seemed to affect Rodgers, and he was a little bit erratic, but he only had to throw the ball 23 times. He completed 17 for 195 yards, and he did throw 2 touchdown passes. Late in the 4th quarter, he had a 6-yard run for a touchdown, and he kind of let the Bears fans have it down there in the end zone, screaming, "I own you. I still own you." I thought it was funny, and I mean, actually, it's true. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Poor Bears fans. Cincinnati Bengals playing extremely well lately. Went to Detroit to play the Lions. This game was a blowout, and there were a few more this week, but this is the first big one. 34-11. In the post-game interview, Lions head coach Dan Campbell said his quarterback, Jared Goff, needs to step it up. You serious, dude? Granted, he hasn't played well, but he's working with a subpar wide receiver core. I talked about that just last week. And when teams load the box up like the Bengals did, and like everybody else is probably going to do for the rest of the season, all they're going to do is slow down DeAndre Swift. He's your best player. If you allow them to load up on him, you're not going to get anywhere. Not with that receiver core. And Goff's confidence has to be dashed. So I really don't see them playing or him playing any better to the tune of, having to step it up. But we'll see. Although the Bengals D was only able to sack Goff once, they did grab one interception. They had 1 4th down stop. They had 4 3-and-outs. Those are punts, folks. And they had 4 tackles for loss. That's probably DeAndre Swift getting stopped in the backfield. So they weren't able to really get anything going. The Lions, weren't able to get anything really going on offense. But offensively for the Bengals, Joe Burrow continued a really nice season that he's having. He was 19 of 29, 271 yards. He threw 3 touchdown passes. Jamar Chase was explosive. He had 4 catches for 97 yards. And Joe Mixon was beautiful. 18 rushes, 94 yards. He grabbed 5 passes for another 59 yards and a touchdown. That's a real nice day for Joe Mixon. I'm not going to say he's been quiet, but he hasn't had a day like this in a long time. So if you got Joe Mixon in fantasy, hold on to him. Keep him starting. Another blowout. The Houston Texans had to travel to Indianapolis to play the Colts. The Colts destroyed them 31-3. There's nothing to see here as far as the Texans are concerned. So I'm just going to talk about the Colts. Carson Wentz threw 2 beautiful long balls for touchdowns. One went to wide receiver Paris Campbell. That one was 51 yards. And one went to, hey, he's back, T.Y. Hilton. That one went for 52 yards. He looked real comfortable in the pocket, but he still looks a little skittish when he's under pressure. So when he's really feeling the heat from the pass rush, gets a little happy feet still. But if they protect him, Carson Wentz can throw the ball well, as everybody knows. Jonathan Taylor is the unquestioned star of the Indianapolis offense. And he showed out again, 145 yards. Nice day. 145 yards, 2 touchdowns on only 14 carries. One of his runs went for 83 yards. I was extremely upset with the receiver that hurried up and got downfield, but didn't get himself in position to make that last block so that run could have ended with a score. But, what are you going to do? It was a beautiful run. Jonathan Taylor's having a great season. The Colts defense has been great and has a good number of injuries, but was solid in this one. They got 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, and they recovered a fumble. We always talk about turnover differential. That number of turnovers is basically going to guarantee you a win almost every time. LA Rams come east to play my New York Giants. Another blowout and a dominant performance on both sides of the ball for the Rams. The defense terrorized the Giants offense. They got 4 sacks, 3. Oh, geez, I can't even. Oh, this is killing me, man. 4 sacks, 3 interceptions, and a fumble recovery. I can't win. I can't win with that. That's going to sink me on the turnover differential list when we get to that, Barry. It's killing me. It's killing me. We're going to be at the bottom, man. I'm dying here. Matt Stafford shredded the Giants defense. 22 completions on 28 attempts. Unbelievably accurate for a nice 251 yards and 4 touchdowns. Darrell Henderson is becoming a true workhorse also. Just like I talked about Leonard Fournette, this team went from a committee to a 1-2 to a workhorse, just like that, and it's working out for them. He gashed the Giants for 107 yards on 23 carries, and he got 2 scores on the ground. Another blowout. Kansas City Chiefs need a bounce-back game, or a get-right game, as we like to call it. They go into Washington and play the football team and come out with the victory 31-13. Good Lord, I'm not going to use that word anymore. I promise you. And guess what? I have no reason to use it. The Washington defense finally showed some signs of life. They had 3 sacks, 2 interceptions, and a fumble recovery. But other than that, there ain't much to talk about the football team. And even that is kind of questionable as to whether it was really good defensive play or a little sloppiness that we've seen over the last couple of weeks from Patrick Mahomes. He's thrown a couple of questionable passes. He's gotten out of the pocket a little too quickly. I'm not sure what's up with Patrick Mahomes, but believe me, he's still far too much for Washington. His 2 interceptions were both in the first half, and actually neither one of them was his fault, but something just wasn't right. He doesn't look right to me. I'm not quite sure. We'll talk about it later, and you can give me your opinion. But even though he turned it up in the second half, and he finished with 397 yards and 2 touchdowns, so it was a great fantasy day for him if you had him. He threw the ball 47 times, though, and he only had 32 completions. I don't know, Air Raid Andy getting a little pass happy again. Running back Darrell Williams had a solid game in place of Edwards-Helaire. He had 24 touches, 89 yards. He scored 2 touchdowns, but I still think that the Chiefs are throwing the ball far too much. It's getting a little crazy. Again, you're losing your offensive balance, but that's kind of an Andy Reid trait, so I'm not surprised that the Chiefs are looking that way. Finally, not a blowout. The Minnesota Vikings go into Carolina to play the Panthers. This actually was a fairly good game. Okay, it wasn't that good a game. The game did go to overtime. The Vikings won the game 34-28. But it wasn't as close as it sounds. The Vikings and Kirk Cousins presently are playing, how can I put this? They present a lot of challenges for any defense, no question about it. Kirk's not always on his money, every game, but he's got the kind of weapons like Thielen and Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson. So they're always going to present a lot of challenges for defenses.
I'm sorry. This is my only interruption.
Yes.
I just want to hear you say it again. Kirk's not always on.
I said only on his money.
Not always on his
Freudian slip. Freudian slip. Very good.
True. That's why he's Kirk Cousins. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. That's okay. The Panthers defense did try their best to slow down the Vikings offense. But, again, here we go, talking about balance. Without a lot of help from Sam Darnold, their best efforts are going to always fail. And, that hit Darnold's lack of being able to look like a real NFL quarterback the way he did early in the season, where I thought that he had kind of turned his whole career around by coming to Carolina. He's starting to look like the Sam Darnold we saw in New York with the Jets. And it's kind of crazy. I thought maybe it was like a one-game hiccup, but here it seems to be recurring. The Panthers defense wasn't able to record a sack or an interception against Kirk Cousins, but they did recover 1 fumble and they did block a punt that got returned for a touchdown. So they were out there balling as best they could. Meanwhile, Darnold was stinking it up when Carolina had the ball. He was, I don't even want to say it. He was 17 of 41. Are you kidding me? He threw 1 touchdown pass. It's a miracle they were even able to get to overtime. I think it would be a good idea for head coach Matt Rule to start leaning more on their run game. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is hurt. However, Chuba Hubbard, I always want to call him Chuba Howard. It's easier to say. Chuba Hubbard has done a real good job in place of McCaffrey. Obviously, he's not McCaffrey, but if we're going to keep seeing Sam Darnold look like he's got on a green jersey instead of a black and blue one, there's going to be a lot more problems in Carolina. Real quick, Kirk Cousins totaled, Kirk Cousins totaled 373 yards and 3 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook came back from injury. ran a beastly 140 yards and a touchdown on 29 real strong carries. So yeah, the Vikings are going to continue to be a problem. Next up, the Los Angeles Chargers go to Baltimore to play the Ravens. Another blowout, 34-6 Ravens. Whew, man, I don't know what happened in this one. I was watching this game. My eyes got big. Justin Herbert struggled something awful. Keenan Allen was held in check. Austin Eckler was basically shut down. The Ravens defense counted the Chargers every move. They had 2 sacks, a whole bunch of hurries, 1 interception, 6 tackles for loss, 3 3-and-outs, and 3 fourth-down stops. So it's not like the Chargers didn't try to keep their foot on the pedal. You know what I mean? They went for it a number of times. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't do anything. The Baltimore defense was strong. Now, I picked LA to win this game kind of based on the crazy good way their offense is playing, of course, and the fact that Baltimore was on a short week after they had the big-time battle with the Colts on Monday night. So I'm thinking, okay, they might be a little banged up. They're not going to get as much practice time in. They got to come right back off of Monday night, play on Sunday. I expect it to be a game, obviously, but I'm thinking I'm going to lean toward the Chargers on this one. What I failed to consider was the Chargers' run defense is as soft as drugstore cotton. What are you going to do? Statistically, Lamar had a quiet night through the air. He only threw the ball 27 times, completed 19, a mere 167 yards. He did throw 1 touchdown pass. He also threw 2 interceptions, which, you know, the people out there that aren't really sold on Lamar Jackson yet, and I don't know who the heck you are, but you better get with it. But he gave you a little bit of ammunition. Now, 1 throw was a really bad throw. It was a bad read. He didn't see the linebacker coming. Horrible throw. Guy picks it off. The other one went off rookie wideout Rashawn Bateman's body. He kind of tried to tuck it in here, and it bounced out and got picked. I think the same linebacker picked it, in fact. That being said, Lamar and his running back crew just torched the Chargers on the ground. Lamar ran 8 times, 51 yards. Latavius Murray ran 9 times, 44 yards. Devontae Freeman, are you kidding me? Devontae Freeman gets up off his couch, runs 9 times for 53 yards, and scores a touchdown. And Le'Veon Bell. What is going on here? Le'Veon Bell got into the action. He carried the ball 8 times. He only got 18 yards, but he scored a touchdown too. It's crazy, man. Their ground attack is freaking awesome. People used to bow down to the Dallas Cowboys offensive line when Zeke was having his best years. I don't hear anybody talking about the offensive line of the Baltimore Ravens. These cats can move the ball on anybody. Best run blockers out there as far as I'm concerned. But again, my humble opinion. By the way, fantasy note, Rashad Bateman, this was his NFL debut. I believe he got injured either in a preseason game or in practice before the season began. He's just coming back. This was his first game. He had 4 catches for 29 yards, but this kid can run. He's a pretty good route runner, which he showed in the game, and he's got good speed. So if you need a receiver, you might want to grab Rashad Bateman. If you already have Marquise Brown, if Bateman shows off, like I believe that he will, he's going to take a little bit of fantasy numbers away from Marquise Brown, but that's to be expected. Again, just another plus for Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Next up, another blowout. This is killing me. Arizona Cardinals do the damn thing to the Cleveland Browns. My goodness. The Browns fans were pulling their hair out, man. This is crazy. Whew. So when I'm talking football with my friends and just people in general, I run into guys at the gym that want to talk about football or whatever. I notice when folks talk about the Cardinals, you hear Kyler Murray's name, you hear DeAndre Hopkins. They even talk about Chase Edmonds, even AJ Green. The Cardinals defense is very mistakenly underrated. If you have not noticed what the Cardinals defense is doing, please, by all means, get with it. In this game, here's their line: 5 sacks, 1 interception, 2 fumble recoveries, 6 tackles for loss, 2 3-and-outs, and 3 stops on 4th down. That's a beatdown, man. And talk about beatdowns, they beat down Baker Mayfield. He's not even going to be able to play this weekend. I'm pretty sure he's got a torn labrum in his non-throwing shoulder. Labrum's up in here in this area. Not good for the Browns, especially not good for Baker Mayfield. I just saw an article today that said, can the Browns even win without Baker Mayfield? I know you gave me your opinion on that. We will see what happens, and we will talk about that some more. Kyler Murray had no trouble with the Cleveland defense, none whatsoever. His worst enemy on the field that day was backup center Max Garcia. Something happened to the starting center, so they bring out the backup, Max Garcia. Even on snaps where the quarterback is under center, every center quarterback exchange is different depending on who the center is. So they had one fumbled snap on a regular under the center snap, and then he fired one off of Murray's chest when he was in the shotgun because he wasn't ready for the ball. He was calling signals to return to say something to a wideout or something like that. And next thing you know, the ball's bouncing off his chest and rolling back for a big loss. But other than that, Kyler Murray was awesome. He threw 30 passes. He completed 20 of them. Nice day. 229 yards, 4 touchdowns. He sliced and diced the Browns secondary so bad that about mid-4th quarter, maybe late 4th quarter, they just pulled him from the game, let him chill on the bench. Nice day for Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. Watch him. Next up, LA Raiders. This is another game. It wasn't a blowout, okay? But this is another game where the score does not indicate how badly one team beat the other. So the Raiders won the game 34-24. They were in Denver. Denver was the home team. Like I said, it wasn't a blowout per se, but it was nowhere near as close as the score could indicate. Teddy Bridgewater had a nice fantasy day, statistically, 334 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns. But most of that was in garbage time, which doesn't help you in real life as a team on the field. In fact, they went into the 4th quarter down 31-10. So going into the 4th quarter, they were getting blown out. So he threw a whole bunch of meaningless passes. He got sacked 5 times during the day. He threw 3 interceptions. Horrible day for Teddy Two Gloves. Derek Carr, on the other hand, had one of his best and most efficient games of the season. He was 18-27, 341 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nice day for Derek Carr. He beat the Broncos' vain attempt to cover his receivers man-to-man. I was watching the game. I'm like, they are always pressing all the time. They were running man-to-man for the majority of the game, and Carr made them pay. He completed passes of 51, 49, 40, 33, and 31 yards against the Broncos' man-to-man defense. They had no chance. They had no chance. On top of that, a nice run game. Josh Jacobs seems to be back from his little foot and ankle ailments. He ran the ball 16 times for 53 yards. He scored a touchdown. And Kenyon Drake, who was buried on John Gruden's bench, has now been resurrected. He got 6 touches, and in only 6 touches, he scored 2 touchdowns. I'm just going to leave that one out there. Next up, a great game. Way better than I thought it was going to be. The red-hot Dallas Cowboys go up to New England to play the Patriots. The game goes to overtime before the Cowboys are able to win it, 35-29. Whew, man. This game was a back-and-forth battle, and it was extremely fun to watch. I personally didn't think the Patriots had a chance, but Bill Belichick and offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels came in with a pretty solid game plan. The defense recovered a fumble. They intercepted Dak once, but they only had 1 3-and-out. So Dallas was able to move the ball pretty freely. The defense did their best, but obviously if you can't get 3-and-outs on the Dallas Cowboys offense, they're going to gas you. And if they don't come away with a touchdown, they're going to come away with a field goal, or they're at least going to beat you in the field position battle. So you have to get stops on Dak. Let's see. They were able to get a sack. They got 1 sack, but that's not enough against Dak Prescott. Mac Jones continues to show improvement. He actually completed 15 of 21 passes for 229 yards and 2 touchdowns, but it was basically game manager stuff, which is what you have to do when you're playing a very fast, freewheeling, opportunistic Dallas Cowboys defense. They kept making plays to keep the conservative Patriots offense under control. So there was nothing really that the Patriots could do about that. They did sack Mac and Cheese twice. They got a pick 6 late in the game, and they recovered a fumble, and they blocked a punt. So as usual, the Dallas defense played very well. Offensively, the Cowboys got out of their usual run-pass rhythm. I don't know if this was just a one-game thing. I don't know if this is something that they felt they had to do to counter something that Belichick did that they weren't ready for. But usually the Dallas offense is very balanced. In this one, Zeke ran the ball 17 times for 69 yards, but he was almost just as effective as a receiver with 17 receptions for 50 yards. This was the Cowboys' most pass-happy game of the season by far. Dak put the ball in the air 51 times after not throwing more than 32 passes in a game since week 1. That's a big differential there. Now, he finished with 36 completions for 445 yards, great numbers, 3 touchdowns, and the last touchdown, of course, was the 35-yarder to CD Lamb with the walk-off and the bye-bye by CD to the DB. Big win for Dallas in a game that was up in the air almost to the end. Great game. I wasn't going to mention, I'm going to mention it. I've been seeing a lot of stuff on Facebook and Twitter in reference to Trayvon Diggs, the corner that plays for the Cowboys. People are talking about this guy's as good as Jalen Ramsey. They're putting his name in the same sentence with Deion Sanders. Please stop, y'all. Please stop. Number 1, he's too young. Number 2, he gambles a lot. Not that that's a bad thing. Number 3, he's having a really great season. He'll probably lead the league in interceptions. There's a real good chance of that, okay? But as you can see, on back-to-back plays, he gets a pick 6, and the very next time the Patriots get the ball, Kendrick Bourne, who is not a big-time star wide receiver, double moves him, and they get a touchdown off of that play. Beautiful throw by Mac Jones also. So what makes you laugh sometimes can make you cry. That's all I got to say. Next game up, Seattle Seahawks go into Pittsburgh and play the Steelers. This actually was a better game than I thought it was going to be. In fact, I'm not sure. I don't remember. I think I picked Seattle in this one. No, I took the Steelers. I got the win on this one. Had to refresh my memory. The game did go to overtime, though, but Big Ben proved again that he can get you the victory as long as the Steelers can run the ball and their offensive line can keep him upright, which they did. Seattle's shabby defense only sacked him 1 time, and Najee Harris tortured them all day. He had 30 freaking touches, 30 touches, 24 runs for 81 yards, 6 catches for 46 yards, and a touchdown. Whew. Long day for the Seattle defense. They are sick and tired of seeing Najee Harris, let me tell you. Roethlisberger found wide out Deontay Johnson 9 times think he had like 12, 13 targets, caught 9 balls for 71 yards. And I will say this, if you have Chase Claypool on your fantasy team, do not despair. He only caught 2 balls in this game, but remember, Juju is out for the season, which means Claypool will now be free to move around from the outside and sometimes come out of the slot, which I think he's going to start to do even more often now that Juju's gone. So Claypool working out of the slot could be a nightmare for some teams coming up in the future. So keep an eye on that fantasy-wise if you got him. Got to say a word about my man Geno Smith, backup quarterback Geno Smith for the Seahawks. Did a pretty good job keeping them within striking distance in this game. But unfortunately, late in the game, TJ Watt got to him, got the strip sack in overtime, and that led to the field goal that ended up giving the Steelers the victory. So shout out to Geno, doing the best he can out there, but I know Seahawks are watching intently to see when Russell Wilson will be able to come back. Now, the game. Woo. Buffalo Bills go down to Tennessee to play the Titans. Buffalo Bills end up losing the game to the Titans, 34-31. This was a great football game to watch. Now, as everybody who knows or everybody who watches us knows, I love the Buffalo Bills. I love their personnel as a whole. I love the aggressive way they play on both sides of the ball. I also love and totally respect Derrick Henry, which is why I believed that the only hiccups the Bills would have in this game would maybe be 1 or 2 breakaway runs by King Henry. Thought I was going to be right. What can I say? Josh Allen, as usual, did his thing. He was a real nice 35 of 47, threw for 353 yards, threw 3 touchdown passes. He did throw 1 interception, but he also caught a 2-point conversion from tight end Dawson Knox on what looked like a Philly special type of play, which was nice. Unfortunately for me and the Bills, what I thought would be a hiccup or 2 turned into a full-scale regurgitation. Oh, my God. Yeah, it got ugly. The Bills D, which has been lights out for the last 4 weeks, was unable to get to quarterback Ryan Tannehill, which is crazy. Like, you can't get to Ryan Tannehill? What's going on? And their right tackle, what's his name, Taylor Lewan, went out with an injury. I hope he's okay. He looked kind of bad, but I believe that they said he had feeling in all his extremities, and they took him to the hospital, and everything looks like he's going to be okay. But if you can't get to Tannehill, who's not having a great season, it's going to be a problem. He had a quiet first half, or let me just say, A.J. Brown, the star wide receiver on this team, had a quiet first half. But then Tannehill started to find him in the second half with real regularity. He targeted him a total of 9 times. A.J. Brown caught 7 of those passes for a big-time 91 yards that kept drives alive. These were drives where they found themselves in position, sometimes on 2nd and long, sometimes on 3rd and whatever, or 3rd and long, and he was able to find A.J. Brown to keep the chains moving. For some reason, the Buffalo Bills defense was unable to stop him. And I believe the major reason for that was because they were trying to load up the box and leaving him either one-on-one in man situations, or most of those passes he caught in big holes in the middle of the field. And you got to do that when you're playing against Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry ran the ball 20 times. He crushed their souls. 20 carries, 143 yards, 3 touchdowns. It got really, really ugly. He wore them into the ground. Game over, baby. Titans with a huge win. I'm sure the Buffalo Bills will bounce back, but this was a huge win for the Tennessee Titans. I don't know if they're going to be able to ride this into this week, but we will see. Other than that, I'm sure the Buffalo Bills will bounce back. They're my favorite AFC team. Understand, I only have one team. I'm a fan of the New York Giants, but my favorite AFC team to watch is the Buffalo Bills. So we'll see what happens. But Derrick Henry pretty much gave them a one-man beatdown with a little help from Tannehill and A.J. Brown. Fantastic, awesome game to watch. If you did not see it, go to NFL Network, see if you can find it and watch the entire game. It was a great one. That's all I got.
Wow. Okay. Well, I made a couple notes. How many RBs, running backs, do you think a team needs to carry on their roster nowadays with the way I'm looking at the Browns, man? You always talk about how my Niners seem to be able to pull these running backs out of any place, but I'm like, how deep do you need to go? Because that factors in when you're talking about cap space and all of that.
Yes.
You're looking at the value of a running back versus the value of a quarterback or value even of a wide receiver, something like that.
Yes.
But if you got to go 6 deep.
Team philosophies come into the picture. Do we have a workhorse guy? Do we have a 1-2 punch? Do we have a committee? If you're going to run a committee, you got to have 6. You got to go 6 deep. If you're committed to a committee running back approach, you got to go 6 deep. If you have a 1-2 punch or a bell cow, I would say you should probably go 4 deep minimum to 5 deep. What you see with the Baltimore Ravens and the problems that they've had, they had to go and get 1-2. They had to get 2 guys off the street. Devontae Freeman was unsigned. Le'Veon Bell was unsigned. So, they brought Latavius Murray in before the season started, I believe. So that was a good pickup. And they thought they were going to be able to live off of Tyshawn Williams. And, when you got Lamar Jackson, it's kind of like having an extra guy anyway. But, yeah, they had to go to the street and pull 2 guys off their couches. So it's rough. I'd say 5. Okay. I'd say 5 is a solid number.
The other thing is you mentioned COVID, and I just want to say we're going to talk about that in current events a little bit. But I did post on our Ben and Barry page the NFL's operational protocols relative to COVID as of right now. And the NFL was working with the CDC, I believe it is.
Okay.
Sharing their protocols so that they could be referenced for other institutions like schools and business.
Yeah, cool.
So just wanted to mention that because it's still impacting teams as of today. You mentioned it. It's impacting players.
It's funny because directly speaking to that, I have read, people on Facebook, they're talking about, what do you do if your job mandates that you get the vaccine and you don't want to? Do you give in and get it? Do you quit? This, that, and the other. And some of the people commented that at their particular jobs, they were asked to get the vaccine, but also had the option of twice a week testing. I can't remember exactly what type of jobs they have. I don't even know if they mentioned them, but they were given that option. I know everybody's not doing that, but some places are.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I've been a proponent of testing all along. You know that. I had even thought that part of the mistakes of the previous administration was that they did not work closely enough with business to set up testing before the vaccines and all of that, so that an employer could work with government to get the employees tested and get them back to work. You know what I mean? Because that's the only way to know what you're dealing with. Right. You have to have a diagnosis before a prognosis. Right. So that was just messed up. Man, Sam Darnold, you mentioned Sam Darnold, and we had high hopes. We were singing high hopes for Sam Darnold, he was. But you know what I remember, and it comes back to my whole running quarterback versus throwing quarterback thing.
Mm-hmm.
We were all like, wow, Sam Darnold running for touchdowns. He's leading the league quarterback-wise, running for touchdowns. And I'm thinking to myself as you're talking, was he not seeing the field? Is he running because he's not seeing his passing game is not up to par? There's something, he's far. To me, you devolve to running. When things break down and the play breaks down, you do what you have to do. But many times, why is it breaking down? Is it breaking down because you got two guys open and you're looking somewhere way downfield unnecessarily or something like that? There's a lot of reasons that a play doesn't work. So I'm wondering if him as a passer now has to come into question. We question Lamar. Should we be questioning Sam Darnold?
I don't question Lamar. No, in Sam Darnold's
proverbial way.
Okay. In Sam Darnold's defense, I will say this. He has had success running the ball mostly in the red zone. Most of his really critical runs have been in the red zone. He's not a between the 20s, let me get out of here and run type of guy. Obviously, if he gets an opening and for whatever reason doesn't throw the ball, whether he doesn't see the field, whether he can't find the open man, or whether he just sees grass in front of him and says, hey, I can get this first down and slide. But he wasn't really that guy. He took advantage of things that he saw in the red zone that allowed him to run. Hence, he has a nice handful of rushing touchdowns. But I wouldn't consider him really a running quarterback. He's a guy that's dangerous and can hurt you with his legs in the red zone. So I'm going to defend him on that one. But other than that, when you talk about him not seeing the field, no, he ain't seeing the damn field because he's not throwing the ball to his receivers, throwing them to the other team.
Okay, there you go.
I drank the Kool-Aid, man.
Big question about Sam Darnold. You said 17 of 41.
Oh.
I'm like, holy mackerel. 17 of 40.
Ball's all over the place.
All right. It was my intriguing game was the Chargers Ravens game.
Oh, you the Ravens. Yeah. The Chargers Ravens.
I'm sorry because that Bills game is a story in and of itself, but the Chargers Ravens, and it was because of analytics. If you haven't had a chance, go. I haven't found it on the Pro Football Talk website yet, but on Pro Football Talk this week, they were having meltdowns about analytics. Meltdowns. Now, we talked about analytics when? Last week.
Right. But let me ask you real quick. You said this was on Pro Football Talk?
Yeah.
Who are the guys on Pro Football Talk?
We got the one guy who was the attorney, and the other guy used to play for your Giants, as a matter of fact, I think.
No, it's Phil Simms' son.
Phil Simms, right, son. Right,
yes.
Right.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm on the right show, so I know what we're talking about.
Yes, that show. Hey, I watched that. That show reminds me of our show because it's like the two of them talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they have their perspectives, So
Chris Simms.
Yeah. Chris Simms. I like Chris Simms. He's fun. So, but yeah. Now, do you remember the other guy's name? All right, he's the attorney.
I want to say Florio, but I'm probably mixing him up with
Mike Florio, and maybe Mike Florio.
Okay.
All right, but anyway, as the attorney, he looks at things in a slightly different way, also kind of different like me and you. And he's saying that the analytics people are bullies, that they're bullying the teams into like, if you don't do what we say you're doing, you know what I mean? You're not smart. You're gonna lose. And he's like, and Simms was talking about the emotional impact of things, like like if you don't like if you go for it or don't go for it, how it impacts the emotion on the sidelines.
Yes.
And he's like, you can't quantify that. You know what I mean? You can't put that in the numbers.
You can't.
And I question, I question that call. We both had conversations back and forth on Facebook, relative to the Bills call. But
Right.
I'm not going to say that was analytics. I'm going to get back to the Ravens. But my fun thing about the Ravens is, in my research, they said that the Ravens were the #1 user of analytics. So I'm like, okay, was this an analytics victory? Because the Chargers they were using some analytics too. So I'm looking at that game going, okay, who's going to be coming out and making these decisions based on, but it didn't get close enough to have to like come down to one of those dramatic, analytically driven moments. But overall, and again, talking about Lamar, one of the guys on one of the sports networks, he's the guy that does the piece about big man balling. I think it was him on one of the NFL shows. He has a lot of the highlights of linemen and people getting pancaked and stuff. He loves that stuff. Anyway, he said Lamar as a pocket passer has arrived.
I think he can get even better.
He may be, but I said that I thought they were giving him way too many play fakes, which were analytically driven. I got one video of him play faking. There's nobody there. Guys on the left, he's play faking to the right and all this kind of stuff. And that once he settled out of that, in the second half of the win in the week before, he got devastated. I mean, he's firing that thing. He's seeing those lanes and firing it. And since he's not taking his eye off the field, if a running lane opens up, he can hit it right away. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to look this way, then turn around and focus in and see all, you know what I mean? Especially in the face of blitzes. Play action against a blitz can be devastating at times. Guy turn around after the play fake, and
it's his job. It's his job to read the blitz and call off that play.
Well, maybe so. We'll see how that actually happens.
Not maybe.
I see guys play action, and obviously in obvious situations where we know you're not going to run the ball, so we don't even know why you play action. It's not even
I agree with you in that sense.
Yeah.
When you're not running the ball well, and you try to run play action, the defense is laughing as they come at you to sack you. So that's crazy.
No, I'm actually talking more situational. Where the situation is, the potential to be successful in a situation with a run is pretty much zero, but you're still running play action. The thing about what you just said that's interesting relative to the analytics is that from what I'm reading in my research, the analytics is saying that play action makes your passing game more successful no matter if your running game is being successful.
I think
analytics was saying this.
I think that's a foolish statement.
The thing, they have numbers.
But they have numbers. So I keep
throwing a con to this situation. And you and me, to me, that doesn't make common sense because we're talking about a fake. How well does a fake work? You know what I mean? If
you're faking something that you don't do anyway.
You know what I mean? But that's why I want to continue to keep my eye on this whole interaction between analytics and football. I think it's fascinating. And after seeing Mike Florio and Chris Sims have a meltdown over analytics, I think there's going to be a lot more fireworks in the future.
I mean, I didn't see the show, but I'm probably going to guess that I was leaning in the direction of Chris Sims on this one. Obviously, he has a father who was very successful in the NFL, a Super Bowl winner, and he has NFL experience. So I'm going to think that he's going to lean, tell me if I'm wrong, he would lean more toward the emotional part of the game and the gut part of the game as opposed to analytics. But I don't think he would poo-poo it, as I don't. I think it has its place. But there's certain things that go on in a game that I don't care what analytics says, because this is my team. These are my players. Nobody knows them better than I do. Nobody knows what they can do, what they're not good at. And in this situation, at this moment, at this part of the field, with the score being this, I'm making that call. I'm making that call. I don't care what the analytics say, but that's how I feel about it. I'm assuming he kind of was leaning that way.
Well, yeah, you know something? I don't even know if he got to that conclusion, but his point
Well,
again
not definitively,
was,
but
you know,
he
how
was.
you can't quantify how the guy how he was saying, like, in certain situations now your defense is there. If you go for it, you know, your defense, you know, they kind of relax. Okay, well, we're you know, we expect this guy to get it. But if, you know, if they know you're not going to go for it, then they stay to attention because they know we got to, like, if they had to kick that field goal, you know, you're going into overtime. You know, your mindset now changes than if you're looking in, did he make it? Did he make it? Oh, we got to go back on the field. You know what I mean? It has an emotional effect. And one last thing I'll say, obviously you got some point you want to make. Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely.
Go ahead. You want to do it? Go ahead.
No, you can finish.
Oh, I was going to say one last thing.
Because I thought we were going to get through this without talking about the Bills, but I see you kind of slipped it on there when you talked about kicking a field goal. So go ahead. Here's the thing. So your defense is on the sideline. Your offense is going for it. You're trying to feel the emotions of your team. How this decision you make is going to affect your team one way or the other. Your offense has been rolling pretty much for the whole game. And the coach says, you know what? We could kick the field goal here, but we're going to go for it. The defense isn't relaxed because they're confident in the offense and they want to see it happen and they're ready to see it happen. If it doesn't happen, it is deflating, but they have a job to do and they know they have to get back out there. If you are in a position where the thought of going for it is clearly there and you decide to kick a field goal anyway, that's when the defense relaxes. And if by chance, no matter how small it is, that you miss that field goal, and it has happened, cats miss extra points every week, that is freaking deflating. That is deflating. So I'm not saying use that to decide whether you go for it or not. I'm just saying when you're going to consider how your decision affects the rest of your team, those are some things to consider.
Okay. All right. There you go. The emotional versus the numerical, you know, and again, how to quantify that. So we'll keep an eye on that. All right, Benny.